Welcome to Sports Talk with R&J. I'm Steve Risser, along here with Justin D'Onofrio, and we got a big one in stores tonight as Uconn takes on Uconn takes on St. John's. We got a really big game. I mean, not stores, just tomorrow night. We got a big one tomorrow night at People's Bank between Uconn and St. John's. So, big game between these two teams. It can be really interesting to see what happens. If whatever team, whoever wins this game, is going to get the top is going to get the top seed in the probably should get the top seed in the Big East tournament. If St. John's wins, they're in great position because they'll have a 3-game lead on UConn because they beat them earlier in the year. And then if UConn wins, if UConn wins, they'll have the tiebreaker, right, Justin, between the two.
Yeah,
UConn
yeah, they'll have the
UConn beats St.
tiebreaker.
John's, they'll have the tiebreaker between the two. So if UConn wins, they'll have the tiebreaker between them and St. John's. So it should be a very interesting game on tomorrow night at the XL at People's Bank. So it should be an interesting game. But before we predict this game, we'll get into what UConn has to do to get revenge to beat St. John's. And I'll start. And for me, they need Caravan and Ball to be great. They need Caravan and Ball to be great tomorrow night. That they need their two senior leaders to be great in that game. They got to be great. So they need those two guys to be great. Number two, they got to contain Zuby. Zuby had a big game, 21 points last game. They need to contain him. That is a major key in this game. They got to contain Zuby Ejiofor. That is definitely a key in this game. And then number three, they got to limit turnovers. They can't turn. They turned the ball over 15 times last game. They cannot do that this time. So they got to limit turnovers. So it's Ball and Caravan need to be great. They got to contain Zuby. They got to limit turnovers. Justin, what are your keys to UConn getting revenge against St. John's?
Yeah, for me, number one, same one as your last one, is they can't turn the ball over. Demery had 9 turnovers the first meeting. Last year when Demery was at Georgia, they played St. John's down in Bahamas. He had 10 turnovers in that game. So St. John's gonna really, kind of knows a couple weaknesses about him. That really hurt him the first time around with all the turnovers they had. So especially because they shot the ball so well. So you turn the, you can protect the basketball. You'll be in better shape. My second one is the bench needs to have an impact again, like they did on Saturday. The minutes distribution was great. I think Caravan played 34, Demery played 30. Like everybody else was, 15s or 20 range. And then, you need some scoring from them. And if their bench can be an impact in this basketball game, they got a really good shot. And number three, and don't hedge your center 30 feet away from the hoop this time around. I thought Reed positioning better Saturday night was a lot better than it was, which is helpful. But Zuby's their leader right now in assists at 3.5 per game. Dylan Mitchell is their other forward. He averages 3. It's when I kind of talked about last, couple weeks ago, the first meeting, it's a point forward. They don't have a point guard. So Zuby's gonna be running the offense from the top of the key. Reed cannot, because St. John's got straight line baskets every single time. Because Demery's the only guy that could really guard her. So keep his guy in front. So let Zuby shoot it from out there. He's a decent enough shooter, but if he hits 3 to 4 out on you, go out there and start to put a hand up, but don't hedge them 30 feet away from the hoop because St. John took advantage last time and they'll take advantage again.
Yeah, definitely. They have to. They got the big thing is they got to contain Zuby in this game. That is a huge key in this game for UConn to winning this game. Now, the big question is for UConn right now. They're currently a number 1 seed, according to Joe Lunardi. They're currently a number 1 seed, and the big question is if they win this game and they win out, are they going to be are they going to be a 1 seed? And I think it's pretty obvious that they are, because right now they are a 1 seed, and with Houston losing last night, they have a better chance of getting a 1 seed. So if they win this game and they win out, I think they got a great chance to get a 1 seed.
Yeah, I think they're in great position. With Houston losing last night helped because even the committee chairman on Saturday said that UConn's best 3 wins their best 3 wins are better than Houston's best 3 wins, and Houston could have beat Kansas last night, but UConn already has the game at Kansas, and Houston's last 3 regular season games are in Baylor, Colorado, and Oklahoma State. So those aren't going to move the needle, and usually conference tournament week doesn't move the needle for committee. So yeah, I think UConn's sitting in great shape if they can get out of this thing. Um, they can run the table here. They'll set themselves up for one because I think me because how many more opportunities does Iowa State have maybe to catch them? They were to lose. They got Texas Tech and at Arizona still. So Texas Tech now without JT Toppin, does that hurt them a little bit? But they go to Arizona, so they don't have a ton of opportunities either. So yeah, if you're gonna win out, they're looking good for one seed.
Yeah, they absolutely should. I mean, there's to me, there's no way if they win this game, there's no way they shouldn't be if they win this game and they were on the table. There's no way they shouldn't be a one seed right now. There is absolutely no way they should not be a one seed. There's no way. Now the next question is say UConn loses this to St. John's. Say they lose it. Are they still a title contender if they lose this game? Because that would be 2 losses to St. John's and a loss at home, a loss at People's Bank. So if they lose this game, would they be a title contender? And I'm still going to say yes because they got the coach, and the coach has done it twice. So I would say yes. To me, I would say yes. That even if they do lose this game, I do think they are still a title contender.
For me, I think it depends how they lose this game. They do the same thing that they did the first time against St. John's, and they're just stubborn about it. And St. John's get straight line baskets. I don't know if they are. Um, but if they're and if St. John's kind of shoots a bunch of threes and somehow has lights out and beats them, then maybe I still feel a little bit. There's just so many, there's just so many good teams at the top that are dominant. Now they all have their weaknesses, and that's the thing. So I still would lean that they are a title contender, but you know, I do worry if the defense becomes a problem again, and we're still having Terrace Reed and Rybo trying to guard 35 feet from the hoop. But I still think they can be because every of the top teams still have they all have their warts. So and UConn's got some as well.
And you brought it. You said it. The top teams all have their warts. You thought Michigan was better than everybody else. A lot of people thought Michigan was better than everybody else until Saturday when Duke beat them. Duke, they lost to North Carolina and Texas Tech. One of the Texas Tech losses was at home. Even Arizona. I know they beat Houston, on Saturday, but they also lost to a Kansas team. We'll get to Kansas without Darren Peterson, and they also lost. They lost to I think it was Texas. I think it was Texas Tech too, who they lost to at home. So yeah, there really isn't a dominant team this year. So even if they lose, there's no way they're getting a one seed. They lose this game, there's no way they're getting a one seed. There's no way at all. But even if they do, they still have a chance because of they're not being a dominant team. But this game definitely is going to give me a gauge of how the outlook of this season is going to be. This game is big for me to judge because if they lose this game, there's no way I'm picking them to win it in my bracket. No way. They're picking. No, I think they have a chance, but there's no way I'm picking them in their bracket. They win it. They're right up there in that top tier with Michigan, with Duke, and with Michigan and with Duke, with those teams in Arizona. They're on that top tier with those teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because they totally could be. I still think Michigan's the best team in the country for especially how bad they played Saturday night and they still only lost by 5. Like I think Michigan's still. I'm not gonna say head and shoulders because they did lose, but I think they're still. But again, that's what if they don't shoot well, they turn the ball over. Michigan lose and Arizona. I think Koei Pete going to reevaluate this week, so they could get him back soon. So yeah, with this UConn team, it's like I wouldn't be shocked if they run the table, in the NCAA tournament, make a Final Four, or I wouldn't be shocked they lose an 8 seed or 7 seed in the second round. Like I really wouldn't because I don't know what to expect from this team day in and day out. So, yeah, if they win this basketball game, I feel pretty good about this team. Hopefully, again the second weekend. But if they lose again, and they struggle defensively, yeah, maybe I wouldn't be shocked to see like a 7 or a 10 seed pick them off in the second round. It's kind of weird, but yeah, this team could run the table. Definitely with the rest of the schedule. I think they're definitely talented enough. It just can they put it all together? Saturday looked great, but again, I think it's up to the bench too. They need that production out of the bench.
They do. They absolutely do. They absolutely need the production. They absolutely do. They need the production of the bench. That's a really good point. I don't think we mentioned the bench because the bench was not good against St. John's. I think they had like 6 bench points against St. John's. You saw the
Yeah.
production the bench had in the Villanova game. That was huge. That was huge because no one had a great game against Villanova. Nobody really had a great game. No starter really had a great game, but their bench was phenomenal. That was the difference.
Yeah, it was, and yeah, their bench was great, and because you only needed 30 from Demery. Malachi played pretty well. I, with Jaden, I know Jaden Ross could be. You never know what you're gonna out of Jaden. You're just gonna have to deal. You're just gonna have to roll him out there and just hope he makes enough good plays and he doesn't hurt you enough because he can make some really electric plays when he's out there. I know he could really hurt the team at times, with some of his decision making, but I think you got to deal with it. Just roll him out there, and then Robbie's been solid. I really like what he's going to be able to accomplish. In his career here at UConn the next couple of years, and he's got to put like 15 more pounds of muscle on him this offseason. And then Jalen Stewart's always. I really like Jalen. He usually makes the right plays, and if he can knock, usually if he knocks down his first shot, you feel pretty good about him. But again, like Jalen and Ross, they need the best out of those two, and those two haven't totally developed the way that I think we've all hoped so. But hey, if they can both have great outings tomorrow night, UConn puts himself in a great position.
All righty, so tomorrow night, People's Bank. We'll give our predictions for the game, and I'm gonna go UConn here. I'm gonna go UConn here. I think that I don't think St. John's is good enough to sweep them. I don't. I think UConn. I don't know. I don't see the point spread for the game, but I think at home they're at home against and St. John's. I know they've won 13 in a row. I know they're coming into People's Bank, winning 13 in a row. So it's going to be it's going to be an interesting game. But I just think UConn wins this. I think Ball and Caravan have big games. I think that Demery plays well too. I think they do what I say they're going to do and contain Ejiofor. I think they're going to win. I think they're going to win like a 75-71. It's going to be close. It's going to come right down to the end. But I think they're going to win a 75-71 game and take control in the Big East and take control of the Big East and get that number one seed. So yeah. I mean, I got UConn winning this one. I'm going to go UConn here. I'm going to go UConn 75-71 over St. John's.
Yeah, I got UConn in a close one as well. You mentioned Ken Palm's got the game 6, which seems like a lot.
Ooh, that's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Yeah. If I could bet on UConn to stay, I'd probably take the Johnnies in the point. I'd take the Johnnies to cover the points there. But UConn hasn't lost in People's Bank in over 2 years, and that was the St. John's team. They did not play well. It was like a Sunday afternoon. I remember that. During their January kind of stretch there.
That was in 23 when they won. That was the 23 year where they lost to St. John's.
Yep. The last year, Mike Anderson. But yeah, so I think UConn gets it done. I think the defense plays well. I think the bench has a good impact. Ian Jackson is going to play after he did not play the other day against Creighton. For the Johnnies, he'll be back, so they'll get him back this tomorrow night. So I think UConn does enough. I think Caravan has a pretty good game. It's his last game at People's Bank Arena, and I think he's got a good one. I think Ball shows up. I think Mullins has a good game. He's got to stay in front of St. John's, force them to make jumpers, and they got a good chance to win this basketball game. And I assume that place is going to be rocking because it feels like People's Bank's had a better atmosphere this year than Gamble. I don't totally know why, but it just seems like it. So I'll take him to get this win.
Yeah, I wonder why People's Bank has had a better atmosphere than Gamble, because Gamble usually has a better atmosphere, but it makes sense because UConn's lost 2 games at People's Bank this year, so it definitely it makes more sense. It makes sense that they haven't played as well at Gamble, and played better at People's Bank, but usually it's the other way around.
Yeah, usually most year it's better. Even last year they lost a game or 2 at Gamble, I believe, and they didn't lose at all at People's last year. So yeah, usually most years they're more dominant at Gamble than they are in Hartford, and usually they shoot the ball better at Gamble than they do in Hartford because that's where they practice more. So yeah, it's been kind of flipped even like last year too and this year. So for whatever reason, I know some of it. Well, it's the same thing. Like I know for they sold out to a lot of corporate sponsors, so I know the diehards get pushed back into the second deck, and that's why you're seeing some of the lower bowls kind of empty this year at times. So I think maybe that's a little bit to do with it, but the same thing at people. So, um, but yeah, it's been weird. I don't know really know why that's been the case, but they played better there. So hopefully, I guess Hurley, I guess after they lost to St. John's last year at Gamble, wanted to move to XL this year. So we know how superstitious that guy is.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. We definitely know how superstitious Dan Hurley is. There's no question about that. So yeah, yeah. So yeah, I think UConn wins. You got UConn as well. So should be an interesting game between these two teams. It really should be. Now, before we wrap up, we got to talk. You can't talk about this game without talking about the two coaches. You can't talk about this game without talking about the two coaches, Rick Pitino and Dan Hurley. And right now, who would you take, Rick Pitino or Dan Hurley? Hurley or Pitino? And I'm going to surprise some people here. I'm going to go Dan Hurley. I'm going to go Dan Hurley, and here's why. Dan Hurley has won his two national championships are more recent, and Dan Hurley never sat his best player, in a tournament game. Rick Pitino sat the biggest player of the year, R.J. Lewis, in a tournament game last year because he quote unquote wasn't playing defense. And now I get it. Rick Pitino is one of the greatest college coaches ever, but right now, in terms of connecting with players, in terms of making the right in-game decisions, I'm going to go with Hurley. I'm going with Hurley over Pitino.
I got to take Slick Rick. I hate the guy. I can't stand him, but
yeah.
I still think he's the best coach in college basketball, hands down. I think he gets the most out of his teams. His teams always play hard. His team's always improving. Look, how much longer Rick's gonna be around, I don't know. Um, I think this team's gotten better now. Again, their competition has been great because the Big East is very down, but this, he's figured out the point forward stuff, and it's gone really well. And their offense has looked a lot better than it did, at times against some better teams this year. So I just think X's and O's wise, I think just game planning wise, I still think Rick is the best in the sport. So I hate the guy, I can't stand him, but and he's won 3 straight against Dan Hurley too. So it's another thing.
So you're going Pitino. Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. He has won 3 straight against Hurley, and Hurley got him early though. He beat him three in a row. He beat him the first 3. He beat him. He beat him the first 3, and now Pitino's beat him the next 3. So it's 3-3. This is the rubber match here, between the two of them. But yeah, I get why you mean Pitino because you've seen the programs Pitino has turned around. I mean, Louisville, you saw him turn around Louisville. Then he did well at Iona when he went there, and I'm not even talking about his early days. He was at Kentucky or when he
look at Providence.
And Providence, got Providence to a Final Four. We got Providence to a Final Four. Yeah, so he's just turned every program around. He's done a phenomenal job. He's clearly one of the greatest college basketball coaches of all time. But in terms of right now, who are you taking? I think it's very close, but I just give Hurley the slight edge. I think he has a better relationship with his players. And he's not going to make that terrible in-game. Like last year's decision that was a bad decision by Pitino sitting R.J. Lewis.
No, it was. That was an inexcusable decision. I just think game planning wise, I still just because Pitino just always their teams are always very buttoned up. Very good game plans. And the first meeting, he had an awesome game plan. Just he knew Reed was going to. You could pull Reed 30 feet away from the hoop, and he exposed UConn to that. And you saw the last couple games up until like Saturday. Other teams were able to kind of expose that against them. They fixed it a little bit there on Saturday night. UConn's got to fix it now. But again, I assume St. John's have a really good game plan going in tomorrow night, and I assume they're going to try the same strategy that worked a couple weeks for them ago. So they're an excellent scouting team. So I just think Pitino's still the best one because I think he just gets the maximum out of his teams. And look, I didn't like the roster construction they had, but they've really fixed some things from what they were at the beginning of the year, where it looked like this thing might not be a total train wreck, but there were some issues because I wasn't that high on them going in. Like I thought they were like a top 20-ish team, and they're probably still kind of around there, but early on, it looked like maybe this team isn't going to be even the top 25, but they figured it out.
Oh, they definitely have. You got to give them credit for that. They definitely have, and that's why they're in the spot they're in. That's exactly why they're in the spot they're in. Playing for they're in the spot they're in, playing for a Big East regular season title. They win this, they win their second straight Big East regular season title. Look at where St. John's was before he came here. So he's done a great job turning it around in such a quick time.
Yeah, yeah, yes. And this NIL transfer portal thing really helps it because they got a billionaire in Mike Rapolio, which does help some things. But yeah, he's turned it around pretty quickly. And St. John's, I hate to say it because their fans they've come out of the woodwork after 25 years of nothing. But yeah, and that he's re-entered that program very very quickly here. So I assume if it's Uconn St. John's on Saturday night, the Big East tournament, tickets are going to be a
Oh my
couple
God.
$100 just try to get in the building that night.
Oh my God, that'd be. I mean, I tell you, it was close last year. It was close last year to have
Yeah.
It was one game away. And UConn needed to beat Creighton and they didn't, but they were one game away from it being UConn St. John's. But there's a really good chance it'll be UConn St. John's this year at the Big East tournament. I would like it to be UConn to win tomorrow night and say that's the rubber match between the two. That would be a really that'd be a great Big East final for as rough of a year it's been for the Big East. That would be great for the conference to have a final like that if it ends up happening.
Yeah, it absolutely would. That's going to feel like the old Big East. And what made the Big East tournament like the more special, the best one of them all, I thought. So of all like the power conference ones. So yeah, it's going to feel like that old school Garden feel if they get those two. Because off the top of my head, I don't remember we've had like two New England schools play in the Big East tournament final.
Or you mean
It's always
North?
feels like a Marquette or Creighton.
Yeah, or you mean Northeast schools? Yeah, if you go back to it, last year was
the
Creighton.
Northeast, yeah.
Last year, Creighton St. John's. 2 years ago, Marquette Marquette Uconn. Then 3 years ago, both
Marquette Creighton.
Marquette, no, Marquette Xavier with Marquette winning, in 23. Because Xavier beat Creighton, so it was Marquette Xavier. 22 was
because I think Creighton was in the championship game. I think.
No,
I remember being there.
They lost to Xavier. They lost to Xavier in 23.
Did they really?
They did. They lost to Xavier, and Xavier played Marquette. And then 22, they were in the championship game because 22 it was Creighton and Creighton Nova, and then and then in 21 it was 21 was Nova. No, 21 was Georgetown and a Creighton. So I can't remember the last time that was the run. That was the Patrick Ewing when they went on that crazy run to the Big East championship, to the NCAA tournament, and then they went 0-18 the next year. So I can't remember the last time it's been. It has to be it's not been since UConn's joined the league. It has to be in those years in between when UConn left the league not left the league, or the league changed and UConn got into the league. What, Villanova Seton Hall?
2019 Villanova Seton Hall.
Villanova Seton Hall was the last time. So Villanova Seton Hall. Wow. So it's been 7 years since you've had two old, pre-pandemic. So it's been that long since you've had two, old school Big East teams go at it in the final. So yeah, that would be really nice if UConn and St. John's played for the Big East title. But now we will shift our attention to Darren Peterson in Kansas. And last night they knocked off Houston 69-56. And it was a pretty good game. I mean, Trey White had a big game. Peterson, not a great game. He played well. Defense for Kansas was really good. Houston showed you why they are going to have trouble. Could have trouble late in the tournament because they have no inside game. But really, the story was Darren Peterson, and really has been Darren Peterson and him. And the minutes and the lack of minutes he's been playing, and the criticism he's been receiving. But last night he had a weird answer with all the criticism he's received. He said, "Oh, I'm a socially isolated loner. I don't care about the criticism." And to me, there's still concern going forward with this Kansas team and Darren Peterson. I think there is. I just think, even though they won last night, I think there's a lack of a connection between Peterson and this Kansas team.
Even Bill Self over the weekend was like, like I really feel like I haven't even had a chance to really coach you yet. It's pretty much a Peterson. So, and we like over the weekend, it was an article I think, or he didn't. I think it was over. I don't remember who published it, but it was his agent. It was kind of mop up, clean up of like, he's been injured. He's a very competitive guy. Like it was pretty much like, okay, like we got to change kind of the narrative because you are starting to kind of hear what's this kid's competitiveness. Does he love the game? And all that. So it seems like they're trying to kind of clean up some of it, which is good. But last night it was good they played most of the game, but I thought he kind of forced some things last night. He was trying to get himself into the game a little bit too much, I felt like. But yeah, with the Comets, again, it's still just a risk, because with how good this class is, you can't for a GM who's if when you're picking this high, you can't miss on one of these five guys coming out of the draft this year. And if you go Peterson one, and like the character criticisms are correct, and if something goes wrong the first couple years, and you could have a chance to pick the Bantza or Boozer, that GM's gone. So GM, it's on the line for GM. So it's gonna be interesting when we get close to draft how this kind of affects everything, because it could be a problem.
Oh, very easily could be a problem. I mean, yeah, I mean, listen, he could be a problem, but I still think though he's going to go in the top two. Just when you get Kobe Bryant comparisons, you're going in the top two. I just don't think he's going to fall. But yeah, there's issues with dependability. GMs are probably going to question that, but it's very very hard for me with the talent he has. I know there's DeBonza, I know there's Boozer up there, but it's very hard for me to see him fall, out of the top two.
Yeah, it's gonna be difficult. Because I do think, you know, because yeah, I think it's difficult unless a Boozer goes on, wins a national championship, is plays great. I guess the kid Boozer's never lost a tournament in his life, so if you want a winner, I guess bring him in. We'll see if they can get through the NCAA tournament. I still don't trust John Shire with in the Final Four game, but they played coached pretty well I thought Saturday night, but we'll see what happens. The late get bright, but yeah, there's so much talent that I don't think he dropped it two either, because especially with those Kobe comparisons, like you're talking about the third best player to ever lace him up. Like, yeah, it's gonna be tough to pass a guy that is getting much that much hype, but it wouldn't shock me if he goes three, especially if Boozer has a huge NCAA tournament. It really wouldn't, but I think Pearson's the best player in the class, but I'm a GM. You know, I'd really be holding my breath even at number two with him, because I'm just worried because I'll lose my job if I should have picked if Boozer goes number three and kills it, and Peterson wants out off the team in a year and a half.
Yeah, it's risky. It's risky. I mean, the guy's supremely talented, but yeah, the dependability has definitely been a major issue for him. It's definitely been a major issue. I mean, you see the Iowa State game where he goes crazy and they steal that game, but then other games you see him just not play at all, playing like 20 minutes. And I think the alarming thing is when Bill Self started saying stuff. When Bill Self last week started questioning his dependability. I think that was the alarm after the Oklahoma State game. That was the alarming thing, because he was defending him. He was defending him until that game, and we talked about this last week. He was defending him until that game, and then when he said something, that was alarming.
Yeah, it was, and I think he's sick and tired of it. I would be if I'm him too. He's in his mid-60s. He had the heart problem a couple weeks ago. He had one during the summer. Like, he's probably sick and tired of this all. He's probably dealing with his own kind of health problems right now, and you got a kid in that locker room that doesn't want to fully be there at times. It could be frustrating at this point. Like that. We talked about that Oklahoma State game last week. Like he hits a corner three and points to Bill Self like, "Yeah, take me out." Like that's, like I'd be so frustrated if I'm a coach. So I don't blame Bill Self for getting on him, and he should. Even that gets the agent mad or the parents mad or anybody in the circle mad. And again, like if I'm one of his teammates, I wouldn't be happy with him. Like I can't imagine, the locker room that things are totally okay. Maybe they are, but if I was on his team, I like, dude, do you want to be here for us or not? Like either show up every day or don't come at all, because we're trying to. You're Kansas. You can go win a national title every year, but if you're not committed to it, I don't want you on the floor with me.
Yeah, I could see where Bill Self's coming from. I could see where the teammates are coming from. Yeah, and I mean, I could see how that could be this could be affecting their locker room. So, yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see what ends up happening here. I mean, you got like 3 more games left in the regular season, and this Kansas team, as they proved last night, if he's locked in, he's ready to go. I know he didn't have a great game, but if he's locked in, ready to go, they can be dangerous in the tournament. They can be dangerous. Because Trey White's a good player. Melvin Council's a good player. They got a good big. They got a good team. But they need Peterson to be on the same page with everyone.
They do. Yeah, that's the thing, because they're not deep. You only saw them play 7 last night, so they're not a deep team. So they need him out on the floor. And yeah, Floyd Begunda's a big big guy down low who's a really good interior defender. Trey White when he's on could shoot, and Melvin Castle's been a lot better than I thought he would be this year for him. So they got length. They could play really good defense. They're just a scrappy team. So yeah, if you can, then you add a guy like Peterson who could really elevate your offense and take some pressure off Trey White as you saw last night and those guys. Yeah, it's a Kansas team that's dangerous, but you know, you don't know if that kid's going to sit out a Sweet 16 or Elite Eight game. So it's I don't know how I'm going to fill them out in my bracket. So in a couple weeks, but yeah, they could be a dangerous team when he's on the floor and they're right like they did in that first half and they took control in that second half. So they'd be great. And I don't know if you saw the Self too, but Bill Self now is 41-0 on Big Monday at home
Yeah,
at Kansas. That's insane.
that's that's insane. That's really really good. Shows you why he's one of the top coaches in the country. At 41-0 on Big Monday. Big Monday is a tradition. I mean, it used to be in the Big East, but in the now
Yeah,
the
I miss
ACC and the
those
Big
days.
12, it's a tradition. So I miss those days too. But yeah, I mean, you grew up on those days. We grew up on those days with Big Monday in the Big East. But yeah, I mean, just amazing, just amazing, and a good win for Kansas. Good win for Kansas last night. I know they were getting a lot of criticism after their loss to Cincinnati, but it was a good bounce back win for Kansas, beating Houston and putting themselves in a better position to get a better seed in the NCAA tournament and a better seed in the Big 12 tournament. So a good win for Kansas last night. But we got to move on to what happened on Sunday, and that was just what a game that was at the U.S. for the first time since 1980. For the first time since 1980, Team USA wins gold, and really first. What does this what does this gold medal mean? What does this gold medal mean for this country? And I think it means a ton. I think it means a ton. I think this is one of the I think this was such a great event, one of the best Olympic events I've ever seen. We'll see if we'll talk about if it was one of the best moments in the Olympics, but that was an unbelievable moment. I was up watching it. I worked till 1 o'clock on Saturday, but I was up at 8 a.m. watching just because of how important that game was. And I'm not the biggest hockey guy in the world, you know that. I'm not the biggest hockey guy, and I was up watching it. And yeah, and what a goal by Jack Hughes. That was just flat out amazing. Jack Hughes getting that goal to win it for the U.S. So just an amazing moment. And Justin, what do you think this meant for this country?
Yeah, I think it was a great win for the hockey and yeah, like where this hockey's kind of been building now. They won the World Juniors, I think the last 2 out of 3 years. The women win the gold on their side against Canada. So um, that was a really good Canadian team that they beat in the US last year. We saw couldn't go over the hump in the Four Nations one, but they got this one, and you could tell how much it meant. So, yeah, I haven't seen a rating yet. I don't know if you have, but I'm interested because I assume the ratings are pretty good for this, even though it's 8 a.m. So, um, but I think it was huge to get that win, to get that for the first it was what 46 years of the day of the Miracle on Ice team. It's pretty special. So I think it's huge, and I hope it grows the sport of hockey more because look, I know back in 1980, I think I know there was barely any U.S. players playing in the NHL, and it really helped grow the sport. So hopefully, it's another kind of growth into the sport of hockey. But time will tell. But it shows how far we've come in the sport.
Yeah, we have. I'll give you that. We've definitely came far. Maybe a lot of people interested, and it's not. Listen, it's not basketball. It's not football. It's not baseball. But yeah, we've came far, and it was a really. You saw a lot of Miracle. The clips from the movie Miracle in the last week, just because of how big this was and how huge this was for our country. And it was great watching that game. It was phenomenal for our country. But before we get into even more of this, what it means to the country and everything, we'll get to why Team USA won the game, and I'll start. And obviously, I think the biggest reason why was that Hallebuck goal, Hallebuck save. That was unbelievable. That save was great. What a save! That saved the game. That save was amazing. That save was unbelievable to keep the game at 1-1. That Hallebuck save was amazing to keep the game at 1-1. That was a great save. And then number two for me, them getting that game to overtime because they were being outplayed for 2 quarters. They were being outplayed for 2 quarters. And if they didn't get that game to overtime, to me, there's no way they would have won it. There's no way they would have won the gold medal if they didn't get that game to overtime. So they needed to get that game to OT, and they did, and they won it with Jack Hughes, who lost 2T, gets the game-winning goal. Justin, why do you think the U.S. won this game?
Yeah, for me, the U.S. why they won this game. Number one, you mentioned it, Connor Hallebuck. That guy stood on his head, and I even said last week, like I don't trust him in a big spot because some of his playoff games in Winnipeg, he's really struggled. I think in that series against Colorado a couple years ago, I think they pulled him three of the games, I believe it was. Like he really struggled in the big moment, and he was awesome. And yeah, that save he made him McKinnon. He made a couple just really impressive saves to keep him, in that hockey game. Yeah, because that always was tilted for the last two periods, and he played great. Number two for me was the PK, 18 for 18 for the tournament, and that 5-on-3 that they killed, which I thought Canada was going to get at least one there. Two Rangers on that PK. Trocheck and JT Miller did their jobs. And the rest of that group. So I thought the PK was excellent. So those are kind of my two ones with goaltending and just how good the PK unit was on
And
throughout the entire tournament.
And I'm glad you brought up the penalty kill because that was huge. That was a huge penalty kill. Yeah, they had the 5-on-3 and they didn't get it, and then they had to kill off that penalty. And Canada looked like they were getting close there. They were getting close there, and to the U.S.'s credit, they were able to stop and they were able to get to overtime. And they were able to win it.
Yeah, they were. They were able to, and I thought even 3-on-3 because the thing that made no sense of why Canada could complain about 3-on-3 is you had McCarr, McKinnon, and McDavid, three of the best players. McCarr, the best defense or offensive defense player in the sport. McDavid might be the second greatest hockey player when it's all said and done. And Nathan McKinnon is one of the best forwards in the sport and is on by far the best team. Yeah, to knock them off and to get it was huge. And you kind of knew in overtime it wasn't going to last that long with the 3-on-3. But yeah, huge goal. And I've never seen never been happy to see New Jersey Devils score a goal. And the next time too that these NBA guys sit out and for load management. Yeah, Jack Hughes is losing his front teeth, not making $50 million like you, LeBron. He's putting on the line for his country. So that's why I've always had more respect for the hockey guys and the basketball guys because they'll play through anything.
Yeah, I knew you take a shot too at the NBA guys for the load management. I know you're not a load management guy at all in the NBA. No. You were not a load management guy, and it's funny. Someone at work told me the same thing. These guys don't load manage. Look at Jack Hughes, because I'm kind of a little bit of a load management defender because of how the NBA is played today. But they don't load manage. They're just amazing, But the big question, though, too, is as we talk about overtime as well, John Cooper didn't like the 3-on-3. Do you think that was sour grapes? I think it was a little bit of sour grapes. I mean, that shouldn't just be brought up at the 3-on-3 when you lose. And there's nothing really you could do in the Olympics. You can't play like a full, overtime. You can't play 5-on-5 because you have to get to the next game, or in the U.S. Canada's case, you have to get to the closing ceremony. So I think the 3-on-3 is really the only way to go.
Yeah, 3-on-3. Yeah, I don't love it, but I get why they have to do it. And yeah, like Canada knew it was coming. It's not like the ref went up and told you, "Hey, it's 3-on-3 overtime here." So but you had McDavid, McKinnon, and McCarr out there. You had the best three guys you could have asked for, and you still couldn't get it home. So yeah, then look, McKinnon's probably right. They were probably the better team that day. I don't think anybody's disputing that, but hey, that's what happens in hockey. You face a hot goaltender that is literally a brick wall in net, and you can lose a hockey game. So that's what I love so much about hockey too. So yeah, that was Cooper being a little bit of a crybaby about it. So it sounded like John Shire a couple weeks ago after North Carolina staffer hit Duke staff members in the face or something. Like, give me a break.
Did he actually get hit? Did he get hit or not really?
No. North Carolina was like, we've looked at every angle that we could have. We did not see any of our staffers punch anybody.
What was it? Was it a little tap or something?
Yeah, it was like a water bottle. It was an empty water bottle or something, which Duke students threw at North Carolina 3 years ago when they were leaving the floor. So that's another thing. After they chanted before the game, I think it was RJ Davis, like, "We want to kill you, RJ." Wow. Give me a break, Shire.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a little bit of sour grapes from John Cooper there. I mean, yeah, you knew you were going to have to play the 3-on-3. Just play the 3-on-3 and stop complaining. And you lost the game. It's plain and simple. You lost. U.S. won. Move on. So really, the Olympics have given us a lot of great moments. But the question really is this the best moment in the Olympics you've ever seen? And I'm not even exaggerating. I'm going to say yes because I've never really seen USA basketball. They're expected to win. They're expected to win, and a lot of these other sports are they're kind of ancillary sports. Even though I'll admit I'm not the biggest hockey guy, and I've admitted this probably 5 times on the last 2 shows, but it's still one of the 4 major sports in our country. Baseball, football, hockey, football, baseball, hockey, basketball, hockey. It's still one of the 4 major sports in our country, and a team that wasn't. I mean, I would say they were expected. They wouldn't be shocked if they won, but a team that wasn't the favorite actually won. This is the first time in one of the major sports, like in a major Olympic event, that the U.S. won where they really weren't expected to win. So that's why I think, honestly, this is. I've never seen more people that were talking about an Olympic event, more than this one. I know people watch the Olympics. A lot of people watch the Olympics, but not. But I never saw more people talk about one Olympic event than this Team USA hockey game. So I'm going to say yes. It was the greatest Olympic moment I've ever seen.
I agree with you because the basketball you always expect them to win, and it's shocking that they somehow lose a. It's shocking that they're pushed to the brink in basketball. In the fourth quarter, it's a close game. That's all I watch. If it's a close game in the fourth with USA basketball.
Do you root for them in basketball, or do you root for them in basketball? Or
I'll be totally honest. No, I don't think it was a surprise.
Be honest about it.
When France was beating them last year, and Curry went on that run because I hate Curry that much because he disrespected the King a couple years ago. I was cheering against him because I did not want to see Curry do that. So I was rooting for France. Other times, I root for him, but and there probably when K was coaching, I used to root against him because I wanted K to be embarrassed. So during the K days, I root against him. So, that's more just my K hate, but I look so like so I agree with you. I think for me it was the greatest kind of Olympic moment for me, and I really think the 4 nations I think the way they lost last year, I think kind of got everybody excited for this too. Like this is kind of we all kind of wanted to see the rematch and all that, and and look, I get why Canada obviously hates us more than we hate them, and that's the politics thing. We're not going to get into that, but it's like we took. It's just funny because it's like we took Canada's best sport, and this is like our 4th best.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Kind of, as I say, out of the major sports, we ranked them: football, basketball, baseball. This is our number 4 sport. It's our number 4 sport. We won, and this is their number 1 sport. We beat them in.
Yeah, and this was like their best team since like the '80s Canada. They were going into it like they really thought then for the U.S. to knock them off like this was insane. And it felt like on Sunday too, it kind of unified the nation. Which look, it doesn't seem like that happens enough anymore for different reasons. So I felt like too it was just great that the country seemed unified for a day. Which again just doesn't seem like it happens as much as it could possibly. So I thought it was an awesome moment, an awesome game.
When bars are open at 8:00, the country's unified. When bars are open, when people watching the game at 8:00, that the country's unified, and it was unified. It was an unbelievable experience just watching all these. I watched it at home, but watching all these people go out at 8 a.m. to watch the game, it was great to see. It was really really great to see, and great group of players. Jack Hughes, man. We got to give him. I know we're both Ranger fans, but we got to give the Devil credit. I mean, one of the Devils players credit. That was amazing.
Yeah, that was great. And the Bold Eagle was unbelievable. To be able to split those 2 defenders, catch the puck in the air, and get over Bennington was an amazing goal too. The local kid from Mass. So, good Wild team. Maybe they finally get out of the first round this year. So his goal was impressive too. So and obviously Connor Howback and. I don't know how Canadians are gonna feel. He's from playing up in Winnipeg, and
I know
they're not yeah.
They take their hockey seriously up there too.
They do. So probably Winnipeg fans feeling a little indifferent, and especially probably how mad they were, how well he played for how bad he's been in the playoffs the last couple of years. Probably like where's that been? So but those guys they were awesome, and just great for the U.S. to finally go over the hump in hockey.
Yeah, it was nice. First time in 46 years. 46 years, the first time that Team USA won a gold medal. So just an amazing, amazing achievement for Team USA. So we'll wrap up the show talking about some NFL. I mean, we know we got early, this week the combine teams are at the combine, so they're talking. We heard today. I heard Sirianni talk about AJ Brown a little bit about how they're not committed to AJ Brown, the Eagles. It's here Joe Shane claiming he's still the GM. But we'll get to some of the moves that were made yesterday. We'll start with the Cowboys with George Pickens, and it looks like they're likely to franchise Pickens. And here's my thing on this: I think they just have to get it done with him. I don't care if it's 40 million. Spread the money around. I think you have to find a way to get it done because I know it's going to hurt them, but I don't think the Cowboys can afford to watch another star player leave their organization. I don't think they can. I know there's going to be a lot of money at that position with Lamb, with Pickens, but I feel like they just have to do it just because of what happened last year. They can't afford to watch another star player walk away.
Yeah, it'd be tough, especially him coming off pretty much a career year for him, for Pickens and having a quarterback that, I thought he played well in some of the bigger games. So, yeah, I would think that Jerry ponies up and does give him the long-term extension. They figure it out, but yeah, there would be a lot of pressure on. There's a lot of pressure, I think, on the Cowboys to make sure that thing gets done. Because yeah, you can't really let another guy walk away, um, like Pickens. So, but I know we're about to get the next guy, but they just gave a lot of money to a running back, which we'll see how that turns out.
Yeah, I mean it's $8 million a year. It's $8 million a year. I think Javonte Williams. We'll get to that. It's fine. But back to Pickens. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of money. But I just think he had such a good year last year, and I know he didn't play. He kind of walked in the Detroit game and all that. And people are talking about tag and trade. Who are you going to replace George Pickens with? I know CD. You have CD Lamb, but Ryan Flowery, is that really what you're replacing George Pickens with? I mean, I just think if you're the Cowboys, you keep your offense together. And you saw what they did with Javonte Williams. We'll get to that. You keep your offense together. And you see what you can do in the draft with your defense. You see what you could do. You see if you could, you draft two defensive guys in the first round. See if that can improve the defense over the next year, and you see what you could do there. So yeah, so the Cowboys, last offseason was just weird for the Cowboys because they did things how they don't normally do them. They went out, they traded for a player in George Pickens, and then they didn't re-sign their own guy and Micah Parsons, their best defensive player, clearly their best defensive player, and they traded him away. So it was a weird offseason for the Cowboys. I feel like they keep this offense together and see what they do in the draft, figure out the money, see if they can restructure with like Dak or CD, see if they can restructure and see what happens there. So I think at the end of the day, they need to keep Pickens.
Yeah, I agree with you. They got to end up keeping him. Yeah, because I'm like, you're gonna go, try to go find somebody in the draft to go replace him, but that's always hit or miss. You could miss on your first round pick. So I agree with you. I think they do end up getting it done. I do think the Cowboys need to hold on to him. Especially because he ended up being a good piece for him, and he had a really good year. So I expect them to re-sign him as well.
Yeah, I definitely expect that. Yeah, I expect that to happen. And now moving on to a guy the Cowboys did resign. That's Javonte Williams. I think it's a smart move. A smart move resigning Javonte Williams. Had over 1,000 yards rushing last year. It's $8 million a year, 3 years, 24, 80 a year. I don't mind it. I don't mind what the Cowboys did there. So I like the fact that Javonte Williams is re-signed. You got to. I think, as I said, they got to keep that offense together. You got George. You got Pickens. You got George. George. You're hoping to re-sign George Pickens. Now you got Javonte Williams, who's had a good year last year. So you're trying to keep your offense together, and I get why they re-signed Javonte Williams, and it wasn't. They didn't have to overpay. $8 million is, I think, fine for him.
I thought there was a little bit of an overpay just because he's the injury history. I know he had over 1,000 yards last year, but I'm not saying this is going to go as bad as it did with Zeke when they re-signed him. But I don't know, with his injury history with running backs, I'm a little worried about him. But I understand why the Cowboys kind of ponied up and gave him the 8 million a year. But I thought I would have gave him probably like 5.5, 6. I don't, but I understand why he did help the running game out after the disasters from what they were a year, what they were back in 2024 when they were like last in the sport in rushing. So I understand why they did it, but I thought it was just a little bit overpay because he's had an extensive injury history.
Yeah, he definitely has. He definitely has. But again, what were they going to do with the position? So I felt like this was the move to make: re-sign him, and then try to sign George Pickens to a long-term deal. So now we'll move on to the Falcons, and yesterday they tagged Kyle Pitts. They gave him the franchise tag, and I feel like a long term deal is coming with him. I know he's had inconsistent play. I get it, but I feel like a long term deal is coming because they don't have a quarterback on their books. I know they're going to eventually going to extend Bijan. I get it. They're gonna we'll see what happens with Drake with Drake London, but yeah, I don't see them having. They don't really have to pay a quarterback, so I feel like he really stepped up with Pitts out with London out last year, so I think he's going to get a long term deal, Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think they do end up giving him a long-term deal as well. Yeah, it's been inconsistencies out of Kyle Pitts, and um, what was it, that Thursday night game against Tampa Bay where he had
Oh, he was really
166.
good. Yeah, he had a really good game
Yeah,
that day. Yeah.
y- yeah, you thought that was kind of the coming out party. I think his last two of the three games to end the stretch were okay as well. So you're hoping they figure it out with Kyle Pitts because I think he's got a ton of talent, and maybe the new coaching staff kind of finally figures it out with him. So I agree. I think they're going to find something long term, and maybe this is kind of the coaching staff to finally kind of get that talent out of there because because yeah, going back to that Bucks game, you could see that was kind of the guy you were looking that you kind of saw out of Florida. That's just so immensely talented at that position.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, like year one, you saw why he was a top five, even top. I mean, he probably never should have been a top five pick, but you saw why they took him number 4 overall. He was great in year one. Year 2 and 3, he slid off, and you can talk about the quarterback and everything, but he slid off. But last year, he played better. So, so yeah, no, I think that he's getting a long term deal from the Falcons. I definitely could see that. I definitely could see that him getting a long term deal there. So we'll wrap up the show, throw a little bit of a curveball because this just came out. We'll stick with the Falcons, and they're planning to release Kirk Cousins by March 11th. And really, the big question is, what's going to be the best fit for him? Could it be a reunion in Minnesota? Could it be Pittsburgh? Could it be the Jets? I'd probably say just because he's going to play, I'd probably say the Jets because he's going to have the opportunity to play. Like Pittsburgh would be a good fit too because he'd play there too. A reunion with the Vikings, he might play. He might beat out JJ McCarthy for the job. So funny, he took JJ McCarthy's job, and now he's trying to take how he's trying to and JJ McCarthy's time in Minnesota. But I would say that I would probably say, you know what, I'll go Pittsburgh because I think it's the best team and he'll have an opportunity to play.
So I'm gonna go with the Vikings. As you mentioned, previously played for him. He did really good under head coach Kevin O'Connell. Thing you brought up a couple of weeks ago when we were talking Vikings a little bit. That they can't that or actually this was right before they fired the GM. But like for O'Connell, like they have to have a good year. Do you really trust McCarthy? Now with the now with a new GM, probably O'Connell's jobs might be on the line here. You got to have a good year. Do you trust JJ McCarthy or do you trust the guy? I know Kirk Cousins older, but trust a guy that knows the system, that has pretty good weapons still, that can go out there, still throw the football and put up some numbers for you. So I think he goes back to the Minnesota spot where he's familiar at, and does up beating JJ McCarthy.
Yeah, it could happen. I could see it happening because the thing about it is, yeah, he was hurt when he struggled in 24. He was hurt last year. He wasn't that bad. He won the last 4 games. He wasn't that bad. Remember that we talked about that Thursday night game against Tampa. He played pretty well, and yeah, no, I could see him beating out JJ McCarthy because I could see him being better than JJ McCarthy. And you said it, Kevin O'Connell. Kevin O'Connell. His job is on the line, and he needs to keep his job. And he can't just keep having JJ McCarthy go out there and not play well. He needs to have a guy that's going to help him keep his job. And I think Kirk Cousins, there's a good chance that Kirk Cousins will help him do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think he's got a good shot to do that because yeah, you saw still that he could play a little bit that Thursday night game against the Bucks. So, so yeah, is he gonna win your Super Bowl? Probably not. But hey, if you get the playoffs, I think that's he could get you. I think still the playoffs in a really good division still. But I agree. I think right now we saw McCarthy. He could easily win him out, beat him out.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I absolutely think that. Yeah, I definitely think that. Kirk Cousins could definitely beat out JJ McCarthy. I could definitely see that happening. So that's going to wrap up this edition of Sports Talk with RJ. For Justin and Alfio, I'm Steve Risser. We will be back next week talking about the franchise. We talked about guys, getting franchised today, but we'll talk about the franchise deadline, the tag deadline in the NFL. We'll talk about that, and then we'll talk a little bit of Uconn basketball and any NBA news that comes our way. Have a great week. Have a great weekend, everyone.